and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Socrates Garrett proudly presents the greatest hour of your week. It's the Brent Hazzard Show. I am joined by my two co-hosts. I forgot your name.
Mike Gatlin. Thank
Mike Gatlin.
You're your best friend.
And this is where I am right now, ladies and gentlemen. I have Reggie Fullwood. Let me take you behind the scenes of the most boring hour of the Brent Hazzard Show last week. As soon as we stopped broadcasting, Mr. Fullwood came to life and was like, "This is what I should have said. I should have called you a cracker, and I should have said..." So can we have some of that energy this week, Reggie?
I'm always full of energy.
You're afraid to show that Republican side is what it is. Hey, that Fox News watching side.
I'm always full of energy.
But it's okay. Someone's going to be a sellout.
Oh, my God.
And then, Mike, I introduced you to someone who's an alleged killer, and you've disappeared for 2 weeks.
I told you I had work trips. Is there
any documentation?
Yes. I got receipts, sir.
It's nice for you to show off.
Thank you.
So basically, I'm just going to do the show by myself this evening, and they'll just be sitting here, and they can chime in. Let's get to topic one. I hear we're going to start having some editing, some clips. For those who do not know, due to contractual obligations, the check cleared. I'm now doing social media. If you want some behind-the-scenes stories, you can check out my Facebook at Facebook. Brent Hazzard at Facebook on Facebook. At Facebook.com? What do you call? Or hey, could y'all keep the noise down? There's a show in progress.
You just do your show.
But anyway, our lovely producers are afraid to come on the air. But you can also find, I'm doing TikTok now, Instagram. You're laughing, Gatling. You don't do TikToks.
I don't.
Okay.
I'm not 12.
Well, if they wrote you a big enough check like they write me.
Hey, I'd do anything for money. You know that.
He's a defense attorney. Let's pick up where we left off last week. Reggie, from 1 to 10, you're pretty much just, disgusting. But comments? Thank you, Reggie. Best thing you said so far. Is that what I'm getting from you this week?
Well, you got to let me speak, Brent. I mean, if you're going to continue to interrupt me, then why don't I just sit here and I look good on camera.
Big bully.
You know what I mean?
I'm waiting for a comment, something, a defense besides.
Last week's show wasn't bad. I mean, I know we had some folks that had various opinions. I know you had a caller into your radio show who said, "Hey, who was that guy on yesterday? He was pretty sharp." So clearly, there's a split decision.
It wasn't yesterday. It was last week.
It was last week. That's right.
WNPR show
last
Wednesday.
So Reggie called into WNPR.
No. A nice reverend who's watching the show. He feels bad for black people who do not perform well. So
oh, my God.
Let's get into this. Gatling, do you think, topic number one, we're going to try to do a little bit more editing, get this thing out on social media a little bit more. And we're still working out some kinks, but we appreciate you viewing in. Like, subscribe, share. But during the week, the Lord of college football, Nick Saban, called out Jimbo Fisher and Deion Sanders in Jackson State.
Yes.
Your opinion?
Hypocritical. 100%. I mean, Alabama may not pay players, but, what was
They may not what?
Pay players.
They may not what?
Well, they may not have the NIL money that A&M has. Or I don't know how they get their players. I know that there was...
You do not know how Alabama gets their... Does Alabama pay their football players, yes or no?
No comment on that, but I will say
yes or no.
T-Town menswear, that was a huge deal for them a couple years ago. The players couldn't go back there. There was all kinds of...
How do you not know? How can you not answer this?
I don't want to get in trouble with Lord Saban. I mean, there's an off chance somebody says...
Moving back to someone who might have a backbone tonight. Reggie, this is your chance, baby.
Yes.
You can knock it out of the park.
That's right.
Does Alabama pay its players?
They all do.
Thank you.
They all do.
Yeah.
And it may not be, today, of course, it's more open, obviously, with NILs, but historically, they've always paid. I think most colleges have done that, and I don't see Alabama as being any different. And now that it's out in the open, I think that Texas A&M, is reaping the benefits. And Uncle Nick is a little bit upset about that.
Why is he upset about it?
Well, first of all, he was talking to a group of businessmen in Birmingham, and as Deion Sanders said, he was speaking to the businessmen. Hey, I need more money. You guys, in order for me to compete, I need you guys to step up. Right. So that was his audience. Yeah. Now, it just so happened that, it got back to Jimbo and it got back to Deion, but his audience was those businessmen in Alabama, give more money because I'm going to need it in order to play in this new reality that we're experiencing.
I will say this. I understand. I think you two guys have missed it completely. Okay, laugh all you want. They don't pay players.
I didn't say they didn't pay players.
They pay players or not. I'm sure the greatest NFL prospects go to Alabama for the great education system.
I did not say.
Okay, I'll ask you for the fourth time. Do they pay players?
There's money that is exchanged.
See what having courage does? You inspired a coward here tonight by stepping up and having a position.
That's right. I got a position.
Yeah,
that's right.
Go ahead, sir.
I would say, yeah, they do, but it's a little different now with NIL. But I mean, Tuscaloosa, they always paid players. Every player, they had a brand new car. They were dressed to the nines. It got so bad at T-Town Menswear, they had to say you can't have any contact with our players anymore because they were doing exactly what they got busted for at Ohio State, but somehow Alabama just skated.
The signee, Mr. Hunter, I do believe, Travis Hunter.
Yes.
At Jackson State.
Correct.
Has he been paid?
He said he didn't say it was $1 million. He didn't deny that he got NIL money, but he did say that it was not $1 million. Deion said that he doesn't get paid. He's not going to have a player making more than he is, or something to that.
Well, no, I mean, look, and I'm not hating on Jackson State. I'm not hating on Travis Hunter. I'm not hating on anybody. In the modern day era, I'm talking about, I guess, 70s, 60s, everybody who's in the top 100 is getting paid. I remember stories. There was an outside linebacker who Mississippi State wanted him. They offered him $15,000, a car, and a house, and he turned around to go to Florida State. I mean, it's a bidding war, and I'm not hating on anybody, but if you see anybody in the top, I would almost say top 500's getting paid. I mean, I knew kids at East Tennessee State that were getting paid. That would never ever see a pro game. So, but why y'all missed it? True, Nick Saban was talking to Alabama businessmen, but Nick Saban knows about social media. Nick Saban knows everything he says is going to be repeated. Nick Saban understands the game. In my opinion, what everybody missed is a couple of years ago before NIL money, Nick Saban could go say, hey, Ole Miss has got too good of players, which I do believe that's why we were on probation. I do believe some whispers. They can't sign those players. Now, did we pay for those players? Yes, we did. The state pays for them. Everybody pays for them. Notre Dame pays for them. Laquan Treadwell, who's a tackle? The one
Jeremy Tunsil.
Tunsil, and then the defensive tackle that was horrible.
Oh.
No, the one.
Kim Dinchie.
Yeah. But we paid for those players, but I do believe the reason Ole Miss and State have had more probation that I can remember than Alabama is because Saban or certain people would whisper to the SEC, say certain things in the media, and all of a sudden, boom, they took care of that they would ignore the haves, they would punish the have-nots. I do believe Saban, while speaking to businessmen, was trying to put it out there, hey, in NCAA, I need someone to go investigate A&M and Jackson State, and that's not there anymore. But you can't tell me that if we know they pay players, and if we understand that ESPN ignoring it, or the NCAA ignoring going after the mid-majors or the mid-teams like Ole Miss State, Tennessee, whoever, LSU has so many investigations going on right now. And I mean, their basketball coach has been indicted, hasn't he?
Oh, he's been fired.
Yeah. This year.
Yeah, this year was fired. Yeah.
But he was indicted last year. Or was he just named in some federal I mean, Bill Self was named, and, they take care of the schools that make money for the NCAA or turn a blind eye to it. And I think truly that's what Nick Saban was doing, trying to say somebody's got to stop this. we're Alabama and we're not getting beat out by Jackson State, or we're not getting beat out by, whatever. And the NIL money is even the playing field, and they've made it legitimate. Am I missing something? You agree or disagree, Mr. Fullwood?
I think you're right. I think that, clearly the NIL money has leveled the playing field. I was listening to something about the number of 5-star recruits that Texas A&M had signed over the last few years, right?
There's a meme going around.
Yeah, oh yeah. So they had signed one 5-star. Maybe next year was like 2. Like this year they signed like 7. And so that people were using that as an example of, hey, how do you go from 1 to 2 to 7, 5 stars? It's the wild, wild west, and you're hearing coaches like Nick Saban, you're hearing Dabo Swinney. These guys are complaining that, hey, something's got to be done. I mean, there's lots of people saying that. I was just also reading about the commissioner from the SEC, and I believe it was the Pac-12. The two of them were like going to Congress, seeing if they could get some type of congressional oversight or something to be done, because I think they see where this could lead.
Where could it lead?
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one is I think that, as it relates to equity in college football, it could truly lead to the have and have-nots. Or that gap could get wider and wider.
But that's not what's happening. What's happening is the have-nots are catching up with the haves, is what's happening. Now, you've got maybe a USC, but before NIL, did Jackson State have the recruiting class? Okay, let me ask you this. Would Jackson State have the recruiting class it had, grabbing the number 1 and number 2 player, depending on the rankings, without NIL money? Or A&M went 8-4. They, as you said, they haven't had all those 5 stars. Right. Is it bringing teams closer together because certain people can pool money together, or communities can come together and say, we're going to get this one? And, there's plenty of 4 or 3 stars around. But are they targeting people, or people like Dion using certain beats, or he named some of the NIL sponsors he's brought to campus? Or is it going to be like Ohio State, Alabama, and L.A.?
I think that the power schools, I mean, clearly Jackson State, as a result of NIL, will be able to perhaps entice a kid, encourage a kid to come to Jackson State. But I still think that the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Penn States, the USCs, the amount of resources that they can bring to bear to get talent, I think will far exceed what schools that doesn't have the history, doesn't have the funds, they just won't be able to compete.
But here's okay. Do you make more money in it? These are endorsement deals. Do you make more money at Penn State or USC being a backup player, or starting at Jackson State, Ole Miss, Mississippi State? And I think that's what's going to level out the playing field. That if I'm not on there playing, because the kid from Pitt that was a wide receiver in University of Pittsburgh, he won the biggest award in the nation, Blitnikoff. And he said, I'm out here, deuces, and went to a bidding war and went to USC. So basically, there's going to be a free agency every year, right?
Yeah, the NIL and the transfer portal, the combination of those two.
You only have you have one time to transfer without having to sit out, is my understanding. Did I get that right?
I don't know if that's true. You may be right. I mean, I know that there are players that are transferring.
That's more than one.
There are players transferring like frequently.
No, but what I'm saying, you get to transfer one time an undergrad. Once you graduate, you get to transfer again without sitting out. So I don't think you can. I think after you transfer twice, you have to sit out. I might be wrong on that.
Yeah. Well, there's a kid that I followed. It was actually Christian McCaffrey,
his son. Brother.
His brother.
The quarterback.
The quarterback. Man, that guy's played on like 4 teams now.
But I think they're releasing him. I think if the team will release you.
Okay.
But that's because he wasn't starting.
I understand, but I'm saying he's transferred multiple times, and I don't believe he's had to sit out.
It's one transfer.
Yeah.
It took effect in April of 2021.
It's one transfer without sitting out.
Well, and then the other ones you have to sit out?
Well, if you graduate, you don't.
If you
can
don't,
graduate in 3 years.
That's right.
I don't know if people know this. you go to practice in the summer, you have to take 12 hours. So if you take 12 hours, is that straight? Do I have that right? No, 6 hours. You have to take 6 hours to go second semester summer school to get paid for weightlifting and stuff like
Right.
that. So you can go 12 the whole summer. If you go 12 the whole summer, you're doing, in 3 years, you should graduate. So if you do it right, you go to school for 1 year, let me try to compete. I don't get the starting job. I transfer to another year. By then, if you have enough credits, you just go graduate and try one more year.
Yeah.
Or you're gone to the pros.
They said 15,000 athletes from all sports entered the transfer portal
Yeah.
that first year.
But it's also
crazy.
what Nick Saban hates is AAU.
Yeah.
It's I'm not starting. I'm not getting touches. Let me leave. Saban's used to I need you to get here. I need all 70 of the top 5 stars. I think it's bringing more teams up because people are like, I'm not getting any TV time. Let me go to a smaller school where I can just get out there and play.
But it's going to put it hadn't really shown up yet because I hadn't been enough time. But once NIL really takes hold, I think you're going to have coaches are going to be under a tremendous amount of stress to win. Although they're already under a tremendous amount of stress. But when you put in, you got
Transfer.
this NIL money. These people paying the NIL money are going to have expectations on what they. On the results on the field.
But I don't think there's any more expectations than what it is.
And what are they really doing with the NIL money? You're just buying their likeness and you don't do anything with it. It's not like you put them in a commercial or anything. A couple of guys did.
LSU had one commercial I've seen. Have y'all seen any commercials?
No.
And Nike went like crazy spending money on NIL money for female athletes, which I think is great. But, what are they going
Barstool Sports was giving $250 to just random volleyball players or a wrestler or something.
Yeah.
Do we need to come up with a little money? Do we need to come up with a little
Who
NIL?
are we going to buy?
We could. The Brent Hazzard show could have a athlete be sponsored.
That's right. He's going to be on the show every now and then.
Hey, first of all, he would have to be the hardest working guy on the team. He would have to be slow.
The third string kicker.
He would have to be. He would have to, no, we got to get bang for our buck. We would have to get a starter.
Walk on?
No, a starter.
Okay.
It would have to be a starter.
It could be
but like a 4 or 5 star. I'm thinking a big boy because you get value there. Well, I don't know. They don't get a lot of TV time, do they? So you want a skilled receiver, somebody's
That's right. They're going to be calling their name all the time.
Yeah.
You want something like that.
something like that, a name recognition.
I want to see if they can start putting the NIL sponsor sticker on their helmet or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
On the jersey or
Yeah,
something.
that'd be great.
Like a little jersey.
Do you think we could get someone from Jackson State for $250?
That's pretty low.
Yes or no? Could we get someone for $250?
A month?
No, just a one-time
One-time
fee.
no.
For one-time occurrence. Just do a commercial.
Not anybody, not a starter.
Why wouldn't you do it? It's not like there's a cap limit.
Does NIL, if you buy it, you're the sole owner of that though, correct? You can't
No, you can have multiple
you
ones,
could?
is my
You could do it?
understanding.
Okay,
Yes.
well, all right.
Am I
Yeah, that's right.
correct?
Then we can be like on the shoelaces.
Yeah. No, not shoelaces. You come in and do a commercial.
Okay, yeah.
You do one commercial for $250
Okay.
and then go on.
Well, do it.
You're part of the show. It depends on whether you're part of the show or not.
You always threaten. You're like, don't come back.
Yeah,
I
literally.
never know where I'm at. I never understand.
introduced you to one guy allegedly killed
days later,
somebody.
kills him.
And then you're gone. You're done. You get offensive.
Hey,
It's
we got
okay.
to eat with X, Y, and Z. All right, they may have done some serious crime. Probably gonna pass.
You don't have a career anymore. You're in Iowa, for God's sake.
That's true.
But anyway, moving on. Reggie, if people want to contact you or want to buy some medical supplies, how do they contact you?
Jackson Medical Supply. We're located in Pearl. Our phone number is 601-376-0855.
Mr. Gatling, how do people contact you if they want to be screwed over by a defense attorney?
Man, multiple ways. But the easiest way would be by telephone. That's 601-706-6040.
Okay, now we had some fun with that topic. I truly believe that Saban was trying to manipulate the system to try to get Congress or Senate or someone to rein them in. I do believe that Alabama, not only the NCAA, Would you? Are you a big SEC fan or not?
I am, actually.
I mean, historically,
I am.
because you grew up in ACC.
I grew up in ACC.
Do you believe? Well, we're going to come back. We got to take a break. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Q Talicia Garrett. I am here to introduce our New South Development and Training Outreach Hour every Tuesday at 2 p.m., giving you information on how to become a part of the programs through USDA and Farm Service Agency. We can be reached at 678-779-9468. We can also be found online at newsouthoutreach.com.
We are back. It's the Brent Hazzard Show, joined by Reggie Fullwood and Mike Gatling. Gatling or Gatling?
It's got a G on the end.
I know,
but nobody pronounces it.
I pronounce it Gatling.
Yeah,
I'm trying to give the
everybody just says Gatlin.
Gatling.
yeah.
Okay. But anyway, transitioning. What was the question I was asking you before? I'm getting old.
Where he's from and where he grew up.
No. Okay, ACC. Do you believe that the SEC has been taking care of Alabama through the years?
I can't speak for 20 years ago. I've only been here about 12, but clearly Alabama is the favored son of the SEC. There's no questioning that, in my opinion.
Well, we used to say in the SEC is the home office is in Birmingham. Do they take care of Alabama or not?
Oh, yeah.
And look,
They can't. Yes.
Well, I would also say that it's the same thing in the ACC, where the ACC takes care of North Carolina. The
basketball.
But
Football too.
But the ACC headquarters is in North Carolina. Obviously ACC has a lot of North Carolina roots, but it all kind of runs through Chapel Hill one way or another.
Well, a couple of years ago they had that cheating scandal. It was literally athletes were handing it. They had they found the person that did the work for them, and nothing ever. It was a big story, and then nothing ever happens. Yeah, so it's like, But yeah,
they fought it, didn't they?
A little bit, but I didn't follow it. I was like, well, this seems pretty cut and dry, because they actually put the papers out there that were plagiarized, and nothing ever happened.
Oh yeah, no. And it goes. You can't touch North Carolina because of the basketball program. You can't touch Kansas because they win national championships. You punish the SMUs, the Ole Misses. But no, everybody around the SEC knows if you're in a close game against Alabama, the referees will screw you, and that's because Alabama has a better percentage of getting a $15 million payday on January 1st or whatever day it is now. Ole Miss is going to go 6-6. So let's take care of who take care of us, and then the boosters and the power. And I think all that's beginning to change. But transitioning to more of a serious topic, topic number 2, we had another shooting today, Reggie, and we talked about it last week. But since Gatling was not here, I'll make you king of the world. What would you do about school shootings?
And that's tough. You got to have more security. I think
more security.
But it was an elementary school.
Okay,
it's not. I don't know. I don't know what you do.
Do you limit guns? That's the big debate. Do you restrict the sale of guns?
I am not against restricting the sale of guns. Cooling off period. I still don't believe that there's any reason for a civilian to have an AK-47. I don't care if it's a semi-auto or not. But I also believe that people should be able to defend themselves and arm themselves. But the semi-automatic assault rifles, it doesn't make sense for like an ordinary person to have them. And I think there should be enhanced license requirements. And I don't believe that you should be able to walk into a gun store on a Tuesday at 4 and walk out with a brand new semi-automatic rifle at 4:30, and relying on somebody with maybe a high school education to fill out the paperwork correctly and send it to the FBI and let you come. I just think it's tough. I also think that the gun shows are a problem. I do believe that if you've ever gone to a bunch of them, there's transfers going on there that are not regulated, and you can have private sales that aren't really monitored by anything. You don't have to send anything to the FBI. So at some point, we've had 3 significant ones in the last couple of weeks.
We had Buffalo, Milwaukee, and now we have Texas. So 3 in 2 weeks. Reggie?
Yeah. the country, in my opinion, is not serious about eliminating these school shootings, because I think that there needs to be some common sense gun laws, and then I think that we really got to take a hard look at what is it about our young folks today that's causing them to want to execute elementary school students or go into a grocery store and execute people that are just out shopping. These folks are 18 years old.
But you know exactly what it is.
What is it? What is it?
They're right now. It's the echo syndrome where when you and I grew up, and we had this conversation last week. If you and I got in an argument, 20 years ago? How old are you, sir?
50, older than 50.
You want to know? No, you're one of those. You're
50
sensitive.
plus.
You're sensitive.
50 plus.
How old are you, sir?
47.
I'm 49. We're not sensitive on this side.
Yeah, I know. But it's something about when you hit 50, right?
I'm going to hit 50 this year.
I understand. And when you do, you'll understand.
You're going to be embarrassed by your age.
You'll understand.
You're going to be embarrassed.
You'll understand.
I mean, you think
something about when you hit 50.
You'd work out a little bit
look,
if you were
your show is watched by millions of people.
7 right now.
And I just, and so therefore, I'm really, really sensitive to, what those millions of people, think of me. I already have gray hair.
Okay.
But at any rate, 50 years old. So just let's say 50. 50 plus.
You don't want them to know, who'd you vote for last president?
50 plus.
Presidential election, who'd you vote for?
50 plus. Go ahead.
Who did you vote for?
Hey, that's between me,
okay,
my conscience, and the ballot box. Go ahead.
And the white man with the bad toothpaste. But anyway, hey man, there had to be one black man for Trump. Go ahead. Don't leave me hanging. No.
No, I can't do that.
But anyway,
I can't do that.
Okay.
No.
Fox News.
Okay, so what's the question?
Okay. But anyway, no. I mean, what would you do? I mean, the situation is, or what I was talking about the kids today. The reality is they don't get enough normal defeats. They don't get enough disappointments. Everything, whether it's, hey, we're going to go on a trip. Here's an iPad. Stay busy. Hey, we're going on. I don't know where I am. Let me Google it. You don't have those issues, those learning curves, or those learning moments because everything is handed to us. If we Google 3 different terms right now, our phones, we wouldn't get the same answer. Our phones would give us an answer that the phone is programmed with the algorithm would give us. So it's called, they had a documentary about it, the social issues, or it was on Netflix. The situation is like you become in this algorithm, but you always get what you want. Who won the election? We all 3 who won the 2016 election, we get the answers we would want. So you grow up in that. You grow up in instant gratification. You don't have to pull over to get directions. You don't have to have someone tell you no. Now we have 16,000 different syndromes. It's not your fault. Or you know what this kid is? This kid is a ADHD. This kid is so-and-so. We all have issues, but now, we got to be careful for this one. We got to be careful for that one. So when you do have that meltdown, or when you do find out, I don't get all the water, I have to share my water. I think some of these kids who grew up in a bad situation, combined with the instant gratification we're used to, I think they just implode because they really have not faced defeat. They haven't faced that reality where it all knocks us to the ground, and it all makes you question whatever. Have they revealed what happened today, or what was the motive? He killed his grandmother.
Killed his grandmother, then went to the school, and I haven't heard what kind of gun he had or anything like that.
And that's what I'm saying. I think, we've got to start being someone like that buying, and we don't know any of the details, but if someone out there and just shows up to a gun store and says, my first gun, I want an AR-15. No, you don't get an AR-15 as your first gun. I wasn't given an AR-15 as my first gun. 2, I want an AR-15. Dude, you need to go get a psychological examination. Why? Or, dude, tell me where you're hunting. Dude, tell me where you're going to shoot. Are you a member of a shooting club? Give me some background like that. Now, if you're like, dude, I'm at this shooting club and we have these competitions every day, I'm fully employed and I just got a physical and a mental checkup. Well, fine. I'm good with that. Well, I mean, your first gun should be like a shotgun or 22 or something like that. But, we need to start looking at these situations, and these are going to do it. We're going to have face recognition. Look, how many years, Gatling, are we from if I grabbed a gun out of my trunk and came in here, how many years in the future are we from having something, my phone or something stopping me through face recognition or through recognizing what I'm carrying or my blood pressure or whatever? How many years are we from something, some sort of alert going out?
Probably within the next 10, I would say. And things are getting that. I mean, tag readers are already up pretty much everywhere. I mean, I don't think a lot of people know that. There's tag readers everywhere.
What's a tag reader for those who don't understand?
It looks at your license tag. So there'll be a camera facing away from you when you're driving down the street and are facing the same direction you're going on just about every street, especially on interstates. And it'll take a snapshot of your tag, and and so they can track. Okay, so my understanding, a lot of what the drug interdiction is done you see a lot of stops in Rankin County. They can't. Brent, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the profile starts in like Texas.
NSA supposedly sends out some sort of report.
And once that car hits 2 states, then it becomes a probable
drug trafficker.
And that's how they get stopped in Mississippi.
Well, no, they allegedly they give this information to everybody on like I-20, right? If they're on I-10 and you're driving by and they're like, this is a car with Texas plates and it's going through Texas, Louisiana, it's on its way. I was told by someone that like if you're in Louisiana, you're like, I don't care. Or if you're in Texas, in Dallas or something, you're like, I don't care. Well, certain counties in Mississippi are like, let them come. And then what happens, hypothetically, allegedly, is they arrest a person. Well, what happened? Oh, you were swerving. Or you changed lanes without a blinker. Probable cause is established. Usually they're Spanish speaking. They do a search. They don't understand constitutional rights because they're not citizens. They do a search. They got 450 pounds of marijuana in the back. Next thing you know, the city court never sets a cash bond for anybody else in court that day. His cash bond is $500,000 or $250,000, and it magically gets made, and the person never shows up again for court. And am I, in your opinion, was I off at any point of that?
I don't believe so, no.
And then this is what happens too, and this is what people don't understand. I hate the shows or the assumption that the cartel is going to kill that driver. The cartel is running $100 billion business, or that's just the cost of doing business. They're not going to bring hitmen. Now, there's some gangsters related to the cartel. Yes, there's gangsters in every business. The cartel is a business. They're not coming to kill someone in Brandon, Mississippi. Every time, like Ozark or Breaking Bad, go get the cartel and kill some people in Jackson, Mississippi. The cartel's like, why would we do that? We've got 100 million pounds of this stuff behind us. It's just the cost of doing business. They'd rather just pay everybody off. Hey, man, let us go. I got to be careful how I say this. I get my throat cut. How do you... If you're comfortable, and I'm going to give you some, I don't know if you know this. How do you think the drugs are transported in America in 2022?
I mean, I think that obviously there's, coyotes, there's people that are coming across the border, from Mexico, and obviously our various ports of entry.
Probably boat, like the ports, probably still a huge area that the drugs that come into. I don't know the planes flying with the bales being dropped. I don't know if that's still a thing. I think FAA monitors the airspace pretty closely now, but I would say probably by boat.
Before 9/11, they used to not run dogs at UPS. And I knew some boys that worked at UPS that if you had a certain address on that thing, that package was getting ripped open. And at that point, everyone knew what the deal was. And going forward, there are certain trucks or things that are transported I have never seen pulled over in my life. And there's rumors, and I've represented some people who might confirm or deny these rumors, that certain trucks carrying certain packages carry certain illegal substances, and no one cares. No one's going to pull over certain items and run dogs.
Silk Road was using the mail.
Yeah.
And that was
what was that?
The Silk Road, they were using the mail.
Yeah.
I mean, that was how they got caught. But I don't know. I've deposed a guy that was working for the cartel a couple of years ago, and he kind of described his what he was doing, and he was bringing in almost, I think, 3/4 of a ton of weed, like every other. It was like 3 times a month on trucks coming from Mexico, and that was how they got into the country.
See, I got to be so careful here. One of the Jenkins boys called me up one time and said, "Hey, I need to come over to your house." I said, "Come on." He drives up in a white Cadillac, and I said, "Nice car." He said, "I thought you were going to get the green one." And he goes, "I was, but they said they made the wrong order." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, they knocked $10,000 off this one. It's supposed to be 40. They knocked it down to 30." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Why are you over here?" He said, "They've called me 3 times so far." And I go, "What did they call? Who called you?" "The car dealership." "Oh, okay." He said, "They want the car back. They said it was for somebody else." And I said, "What'd you tell them? I mean, did you pay for it?" "I paid for it." "Did you sign the car?" "Yeah, I signed it." I just told him, "Dude, you're going to have to get, I like the car. I need something to drive." He said, "Hazzard, the first time they said it was a mistake, they need it back." And I said, "No, I'm good." He said, "No, second time we'll give you the green Cadillac, and we'll give you $10,000 for the inconvenience." He said, "No, I'm good." He said the third time they called up and said, "We'll give you $30,000 in the green Cadillac to get that white one back. It's for an important client." And I'm sitting there looking at him, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. I said, what do you want me to do?" He said, "Go get a screwdriver. We're going to start popping panels and see what's in this car." At that point, I was scared as hell. And I was like, "You're not doing that here. You're not doing that anywhere here." Now, he got in his car and he drove on, and he still kept that car. I don't know if he popped those panels or not, but no car dealership is offering you $30,000 in the same car when the car costs approximately $30,000. Yeah. Now, once again, I don't know what was in that car. I had no idea what was in that car. You got mighty quiet over there.
No, I'm trying to figure out who it could be, and then because I've read, there was a couple books that came out from Haleman that talked about some of the larger dealers up in the Delta, and so I'm trying to figure out who it could.
You probably know.
I was like,
But it's one of those things where just rumors. But I mean, supposedly that was one of the ways they would transport it across the state. I mean, across the nation, is through certain. Look, the Marcello family approached my family about running drugs, and that's what I'm saying. This was in the '80s. They came to Greenville, and the Marcellos is a criminal family that ran New Orleans. They came up to my dad came home and said, "Some damn mafia came up from New Orleans." I was like, "No, they didn't." They said Marcello. They came in with $1,000 suits, sat down and said, "We'd like to talk to you about a business deal." I said, "What'd you do?" He said, "Well, everybody in their office had their guns nearby, but they were like, I'm not interested." They shook my dad's hand and left. And
I ate at Mosca's the other day. That's the old
Marcello bit.
That's where they used to meet to do backdrops and stuff. It's good Italian food.
Yeah, no. I mean, the problem is
it's in West we go. It's good.
Can you be a criminal operation in 2022?
What do you mean? Can you? I mean,
with the car trackers, tag trackers, cell phones, GPS. Can you?
I'd say yeah, but you got to account for a lot more losses than you probably did before. But
I completely disagree. I think either you have to you have to be so big where you can just pay people, because I think they know
that would go along with. I mean, your expenses have increased dramatically.
Yes,
so like that.
You can't hide from anybody anymore.
No.
Because they know everything. Do you think a criminal organization, a true criminal, I'm not talking about gangs, a true criminal organization could exist in 2022?
I think so.
How so, besides Wall Street?
The fact of the matter is that, the amount of drugs and, obviously illegal substances coming into the country is enormous. And that stuff comes here. It's got to be, there's got to be an organization by which it's distributed throughout the country. It's staggering.
Cartel. There are cartels moving, and I know cartels exist, and I know I would admit cartels I believe cartels have paid people. I mean, let's be honest. It came out today. They just indicted another person
DEA.
at from Robert Schuler Smith's Hinds County DA. And no one, this is what I love about Hinds County. Everybody wants to scream, we're not going to lock up people. We're not going to throw people away. Ivan Johnson pled guilty to one bribery case. And no one did an investigation at the legislative level, at the district attorney level, at the judicial level. No one said, well, how many cases did you fix? And more importantly, what happened to those cases they didn't pay you? Because I don't believe one criminal does one crime and stops.
Well,
And we caught him.
well, they just busted those DEA agents in Miami. Did you read about that?
No.
There was a former agent that was working as an investigator for a bunch of defense lawyers in South Florida, and they were paying agents, large sums of money to give them tips on where busts were going. And it's a whole thing. I think there was 2-3 agents got busted, along with this investigator. And so I'm sure there's a bunch of defense lawyers down there that are clamoring to get out in front of this. But it's it was a crazy story, but that kind of stuff happens.
Oh, no. It's, like I said, it's business. But we got to take this break. We have a caller. We'll be right back with the caller.
To answer your question, I don't want to answer it.
Hi, I'm Q Talicia Garrett. I am here to introduce our New South Development and Training Outreach Hour every Tuesday at 2 p.m., giving you information on how to become a part of the programs through USDA and Farm Service Agency. We can be reached at 678-779-9468. We can also be found online at newsouthoutreach.com.
It's Brent Hazzard, the Brent Hazzard Show, Reggie Fullwood, and Mike Gatling. We have our first caller, I do believe, of the show. Go ahead, caller. Hello? Yes, you're on the air. How can I help you?
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear you. We're still working out the kinks, but go ahead.
Have a chance to call in the other show when it was about you asked a question about Polo.
Yes.
And he has threatened me. He has threatened my family. He has threatened people that I know. And I just find it odd when you made the statement that you did not know that he was a criminal and you didn't know that he was involved in anything he was involved in. He was blatant, with the disrespect, and everybody knew it, and it's kind of hard for me to believe that you was oblivious to everything that he was doing. You, Pastor Pickett, and everybody that he was trying to convince that he was in cahoots with. I just find it really hard to believe that you guys had no idea that you was dealing with a criminal, with a rap sheet. As long as, you pick it, you name it.
Well, let me say this, sir.
So,
I'm going to have to answer your question, but I'm the only one who can hear you, so let me answer it on the air, but I thank you for calling in. The caller basically was holding me accountable. Did you hear that?
I couldn't hear.
Okay. He was basically saying I should have known that Polo had threatened his family, and that he doesn't believe that I did not know he was going to be violent. First of all, let me address that. I've on some shows, or some people have insinuated I created a monster. I knew Polo. This is what I knew about Polo, about him being arrested. I knew he got arrested in Texas. Now, Polo said on this show he got arrested for 2,000 pounds. So I believe Polo was being arrested for 2,000 pounds of drugs. I don't think he'd be out by now. There was rumors, and we discussed it, whether he was one of Melton's drug boys. Now, whether you believe Melton was doing drugs or not, that's the situation. Polo was on paper. Polo, and the second arrest was when Polo was doing his investigation, and he was convicted, my understanding is for 18 months. That was reversed in Madison County. Madison County in the state of Mississippi doesn't reverse convictions. Third arrest I knew of was from David Archie, and that, in my opinion, legally speaking, it fit the same 1983 issue of First Amendment issues. There was no violence. He said he was executing with information. Now, I don't know if he threatened your family or not, but let me go ahead and say this. I'm not going to jeopardize my bar license by hanging out with someone I thought that was trying to change their life around. Now, if you said he threatened you and your family, I don't have any evidence to say that. I would just say if anybody threatens you or your family, I would recommend as an ex-prosecutor press charges. But I can go ahead and tell you this, why I knew Polo's biggest problem I've always had with him was the libel, him lying on people or him taking personal attacks on people, which caused civil issues. But let me go ahead and tell you this, and we'll have to agree to disagree. I know people about that life. Polo, and everybody's innocent till proven guilty. Polo was not one of those thugs that walked in the room when you sat there and thought to yourself, oh my goodness, this guy's dangerous. He could go off any moment, or this guy's put some bodies on the ground. I never got that feeling from Polo, and I would politely tell you, I've talked to people to see if I missed any things. I talked to some real people who've done some real things, and they're like, no, we've always considered him a jester, a joke, and that he was more of a hustler or a con man than a violent person. Now, maybe you haven't had that experience with those people. I was a prosecutor for 8 years. I've been in criminal law for 20. You can tell when someone walks in a room and you're like, those people could put someone down today, and not sociopaths, psychopaths. I wasn't going to have one of those. I'm not going to be associated with one of those. I'm not going to have them on my show. So you can have your opinion. That's what makes America great. But I would strongly disagree that I saw any of that come. And I would say it's more of a passionate issue, just because, like I said, he was on paper, and to get revoked on paper, all you have to do is get arrested. So if he was really that big of a threat, there would have been, the Court of Appeals wouldn't have let him go. Texas would have revoked him. You remember the issue in Oklahoma where he got pulled over, or JPD and some David Archie tried to get him revoked to Texas or transported to Texas, or some people around that arrested. Texas didn't want him. So if you're being critical of me, you need to be critical of the Court of Appeals. You need to be critical with the Hinds County DA. You need to be critical of the Hinds County prosecutor, and you need to be critical of the Texas. I've already said Texas. But did you meet Polo?
I met him once on the show.
Yeah, yes. Did you get any impression that he was?
No, I got no indication. He didn't give me any vibes that he was a violent person. In fact, the day that I met him on the show, we had great dialogue. He provided some insightful comments, and at the end of the show, I thanked him for his input and moved on. But I did not think he was violent.
Gatling, I know we've been over this on the last show, but since we had this caller.
Well, I mean, I think it's neat that you're denying that you're responsible when we all know, in fact, that you're probably the person that created, you fertilized the lawn that grew to where we are now. So, I mean, in my opinion, you are responsible. So the caller is probably correct. Secondly, he knows. He knows. No, okay. Look, jokes aside, it's not really that funny, but it is. I did not get any kind of vibe like that. He was nice. He came in. He acts loud and crazy a little bit.
Yeah, he's a hustler. Now look,
I didn't also get the, like, guys that will blow the room up. You can't, like, joke with.
I know their names. I won't call out their names for you. You've had to depose some people accused of crimes.
Yes.
Who've done heavy time.
Yes.
For very violent crimes.
Yes.
What type of vibe do you get from them?
There's not a lot of humor there, and they're very usually fairly serious, but you can just see there's that thing, especially when you start hitting into what I call, if you're over the target, there is a change that goes on with them where you're like, okay, this person could snap in just a second. And you have to have all kinds of, you need to have controls in place in that room to make sure that it doesn't go down that way. But there's definitely a personality trait that you can pick up on after you've met people like that. I didn't get any of that from him. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but I just saying.
Well, the bottom line is, statistically, if you look at, and look, I'm not taking the call again, sir, just because of the logistics. It was echoing, and then it's bad radio or podcasting because no one else can hear it. We're working on it. But the reality is this. No one who's a serious threat to society is killing their first person at 55 years old. If you believe that's true, you're not looking at the truth. You can go to youth court right now, and I guarantee you, if you got, able to look at those files, people escalate. They start killing things at a young age. They fight teachers. They fight authority. But I tell anybody, if you ain't done major time at 21, you're not a serious thug. You're not a serious threat to society. Those people who are doing 20 years at 21 years old, yes, those are the ones who said, and I've been in those rooms, I'm more comfortable in penitentiary. You're not coming to be on a podcast. You're not trying to get an audience. You're not trying, you're tatted up. You've been in and out of the system. It's one of those situations. Now, once again, I did not know all Polo's arrests, but no, any violent situation, and that's one of the reasons why, no one comes to a podcast doing shows if you're still about that life. You try to lay low as possible.
He definitely had a pretty big profile in Jackson.
Yes. So, he hung out with the sheriff. Yeah, if you're going to hold me to the same to that standard, you'd have to hold, who was the one, before, not Tyree Jones, the appointed gentleman. I can see his face.
Marshawn Chrysler.
There's videos going around of him and Marshawn hanging out. There was no indication that the 55-year-old or 54-year-old person, if you had to push me on the subject, I think it was a crime of passion. Do I feel sorry that Robert Davis lost his life? Of course. I gave Robert Davis $500 to help him with his charitable cause, $435, I think, to be exact. But on the other hand, this reconfiguring where you might disagree with him publicly because of his political stances or him attacking people. I just thought he was another Tony Davis. God, what was Tony's name? Was it Davis? The fireman who died. I think it was Davis. I think it was another Tony Davis who was a fireman who sent this horrible email, or just someone who could string. But yes, I would have to agree to disagree. Now, like I said, I'll go ahead and say this. I've become black famous because of this case. I literally have gone to grocery stores. People come up to me, and some kid at the parking lot the other day screamed out free polo. And you're just sitting there like, how did I get connected to all this? Where you're sitting there wondering what's going on, but there's a dead man involved. Some mother and father lost their son, so I'm not making light of that. But if I really felt he was, if I really wanted to help my career and I really thought he was completely innocent of the situation, I'd go represent him for free. It would be the best thing for my career. I just can't. But anyway, we've got a minute to go. We're going to try to work on the phone situation as we go forward, but we're going to take a break and come back and talk. I'm sorry, we're running out of time. Reggie? Yeah, I'm going to give you at least a C+ this week.
I appreciate that.
Gatling, you were B-.
Thanks, Brent.
You brought it a little bit.
I appreciate it.
Hang on. Polo has gone to Clinton, Jackson, Madison Department. If he displayed a threat of violence, he would have been dealt with by the authorities. That's from Miss Trader. Yeah, yes. Like I said, the situation there is on anything involving Polo going forward. While we find it interesting, it's going to be one of the biggest trials in the state. Look, and also, I can start dropping names now. City councilmen, elected county officials, elected supervisors, they were all dropping him information to use against their enemies. So, once again, I don't believe we can create someone to kill someone at 55 years old. I do believe it was... I believe it was a crime of passion, which is still tragic. But no, I don't think he was a certified stone killer. But everybody's innocent until proven guilty by the rules of professional conduct. I have to say that.
Correct.
Anyway, that wraps up the show. I'll give us a B- overall. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for watching.
Do you have something to say? Do you want your voice heard? Join the We Believe Global lineup. Be the star of your own show. For more info, call 800-492-5186